call to order the October 2014 legislative meeting of the Media Borough Council. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening to all. Apologize. Good evening to all, those who are physically present, to those who are present by way of watching the cable cast. We thank you for your participation in your local government. So before we get into our agenda, let us first pass or go through our group of minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes we are walking this month. The first is for our September 4, 2014 workshop meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to pass the workshop meeting minutes as submitted?
Mr. President. Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Any call for discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing the September 4, 2014 workshop meeting minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. The motion passes. We also have a very brief set of meeting minutes for the September 18, 2014 public hearing with regard to a ordinance that we'll be hearing a little bit. No, we voted on last meeting that was with regard to shared driveways. Do I hear a motion to approve those meeting minutes as submitted?
So
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the September 18, 2014 public hearing minutes, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed? The motion passes. And then lastly, we have our council meeting minutes for September 18, 2014. Do I hear a motion to approve those meeting minutes as submitted?
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the council meeting minutes for September 18, 2014 as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. And it is my responsibility to announce that at the end of our workshop meeting this month, we held executive session concerning personnel matters. So, having gotten the housekeeping out of the way, it is now time for those who are present who wish to do so to come before the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and let us know what you want us to know. I'm looking at you, Mr. Dunn.
Joe? Okay.
I look at the calendar and I see that November follows October this year.
This is true, very good. Bob Diamond, 134 East 3rd Street, is this on?
It is.
You get my good side, thank you. Anyway, want to announce the Veterans Day Parade is going to be Tuesday, November 11th at 11 o'clock. Right now we have 9 bands already. And this year our parade marshal is Honor Flight. If you're familiar with Honor Flight. Honor Flight is a group of volunteers that take World War II veterans to Washington. And with that, we expect to have possibly 50 World War II veterans in our parade. We have convertibles that they're going to go over to St. Kevin's. We'll have convertibles over there, bring them over here, get them in the parade. We'll have military vehicles, all kinds of things, veterans groups. It's supposed, at least we claim it's the largest Veterans Day parade in Pennsylvania, which I think it is. So, anyway. Any questions? And you're all invited, please.
Let us whisper a prayer for good weather with all those convertibles.
Yeah, I already did that.
Okay, good.
So we're good.
One little thing, the rain date for the parade is the same day as the media fair.
Yes. Thank you.
So, if it rains, we go inside.
Oh.
Don't forget, Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Diamond. Does
Thank you.
anyone else wish to come before council at this time? Hearing no calls. We'll then move to the engineer's report. Mr. Johnston.
Thank you and good evening. Short report on the activities for September 2014. Joseph Suker was scheduled to start work Wednesday, October 8th. I sent communications to Suker and have not heard back. I have formally requested a written schedule. I did expect to at least have that for the meeting tonight, and I'm extremely disappointed that I did not receive that. Traffic, the traffic signal at State and Orange Street was reconfigured to flash red during special events when the borough requires it. And also, we changed up, or I didn't change up, the pedestrian crossing was changed, and the 2 times that I have sat at the light, it appears that the pedestrian signal is now more conducive. Instead of 60, 70 seconds, it's working as was originally planned. Olive Street parking garage, we expect that to be totally complete by the end of the month. They are in there doing punch list items, painting, and other minor activities. We expect to have a final walkthrough next week to make sure all the items are done or find any other additional items. Other thing we did assist the borough with Jefferson Street's sidewalks, curbs, and ADA ramps, and a few site visits at different areas within the borough, from the parking garage to Hootman Park, which Hootman Park is still continuing forward. We are in the process of getting some submittals, which I will turn to Mr. Smith. I need some approvals for some certain submittals for that. Any questions?
Are there any questions for Mr. Johnston? I have a question. Maybe you know the answer to this. If not, then I have the answer here. It's on a piece of paper that was delivered to my doorstep. Any news about the continuing work that Aqua is doing on North Edgemont Street?
No.
Okay. And this is where I guess I step into the brief. So as many people know, they have been doing pipe work, wastewater pipe work on North Edgemont Street. It's been quite a while, but they're slowly getting through it. And the last leg of it will be North Edgemont Street between Front and 2nd Streets. And according to a letter that arrived on my doorstep this morning, they anticipate that the work will start during the week of October 20th and take anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. And during that period of time, parking on the east side of the street will be restricted. So a lot of folks use Edgemont Street. Please be aware that there will continue to be heavy equipment there, very near to the school. So please keep that in mind. And we're hopeful that they'll be done before Halloween so that we don't lose any trick-or-treaters down some open manhole. Not that there will be any, but let's hope that it's done by then. Okay, so if there are no other questions for Mr. Johnson, we'll turn to Mr. Scott.
Thanks. My report will be characteristically brief. I have nothing. Thank you.
The easiest job in show business. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Scott? Hearing none, we'll move on to the mayor for his report.
Yeah, let's see, the police department investigated a total of 671 complaints last month. Residents are reminded to secure their homes, cars, bicycles, sheds, garages, and other items of value, and please call 911 if you see anything suspicious or anything that you need to report. Bob, playing off what you just said, the end of the year, I mean, event season is basically over, or just about over. So we always review public safety, how we can upgrade, and you mentioned the light, which I think was a big plus this year, the blinking red lights, and finally getting that straightened out from yellow and red and all. The timing of the lights, so we're always looking for ways to improve public safety for the events. So that's obviously one of them. Also, parking next year should be a lot better.
If you're aware, if anybody's aware of other things that we can or potentially may be able to do with any of the traffic signals for special events, let us know. I've been dealing with Mr. Smith. There's a grant round at this point. I think it's Green Light Go that is available now, but not all the aspects of that grants are available for 2014. There was 2 items that I spoke with Mr. Smith about in the budget committee on Tuesday night that I had found out that aren't available or eligible for 2014 that will be available for 2015. So there are some things that we can do to help improve traffic flow and things like that through some grants through PENTA.
Okay. And ideas on events, we always welcome ideas. I saw Keith walk in, and every once in a while I'll gather with Keith, Garrett, and others that are eyes on the crowds at all the events from the Plum Street Mall. So they have a lot of good ideas that we share, and I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the mayor? All right. We'll then move on to the council committee reports. The first, as is usual, Recreation and Health. Mr. Boyd.
Thank you. Keeping with the theme tonight, I'll be brief. The Board of Health met last Tuesday, October the 7th. Mr. Michael Madden was added as a new member. There currently is still one opening on the board, so if anyone out there is interested in the Board of Health, they should contact the borough and send them their information. Regarding rec, some events that rec has run that were successful on September 20th. There was a bus trip to the Spirit of Philadelphia. They took a lunch cruise. That was well attended. On October the 2nd, there was a bus trip to Shady Maple for just pretty much just shopping and seeing the fall foliage. That was well attended as well. Upcoming events, and this is an important date to remember. Sunday, October 26th is the annual Halloween extravaganza from the rec board. Generally, it's on a Saturday, the same day as the parade, but unfortunately this year it had to be moved to Sunday because of the availability of the big room. So it's going to be Sunday, October 26th from 11:30 until 1:30. The annual senior luncheon is Saturday, November 1st. I would imagine there's still room in there, so any seniors out there that would like a free lunch on November 1st, you have to live in the borough. So contact the borough and contact Paula, and she will hook you up with that. In some future events, on Sunday, November 30th, for the first time, Rec is planning to do some kind of a Christmas, what they're calling a Winter Wonderland, which will coincide with the new parade that day. So I'll give you more information on that once they decide on the time. But tentatively, that will be Sunday, November the 30th. And this is brand new, a new concept, laughter yoga class will be offered on Monday evenings. There's interest and the board approved it, so stay tuned. I don't know what laughter yoga is, but apparently it's something that's popular and involves lots of laughing, so how can that be bad? So stay tuned for dates, and tentatively it's going to be scheduled for Monday evenings, but we don't have a start time yet. And that's my report.
True to his word. Any questions for Kevin? I think it was inferable from what you said, but the Halloween parade will be Saturday the 25th.
The parade is still Saturday, yes. They had to move the extravaganza to the next day because the room wasn't available. We're working on making that coincide from that one so we don't get surprised and can't get the big room. But yeah, it'll be the day after the parade this year.
And the parade, is, I think, as usual, start time is 2 p.m.
I think that's the NBA parade, yeah, that's usually the start time.
Okay.
Oh, 10 o'clock, I'm sorry. I assume parade.
All right, so we have quite an action-packed Halloween weekend, or weekend
Yes.
before Halloween. Halloween parade followed by an extravaganza, followed by Halloween itself. So that did a sort of a lot of calendars throughout the borough. Okay, so unless there are any other questions for Mr. Boyd, we'll move on to historic archives. I'm sorry. We'll move on to the review board's historic and media business authority. Sorry, Lisa. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. The HARB, the Historical Architectural Review Board, is working on creating workshops for people who might live in a historic house or want to live in a historic house or a semi-historic house, but to teach them how to take care of it, because they have their own issues as they get older. So they're working on workshops for that. They're putting out a letter as well to property owners and residents of the historic districts in the borough to let them know that they have guidelines to take care of their houses available, and the guidelines are posted on our website, which is for anyone actually, but just letting people know that they're there and available and willing to help people out, by just contacting them, and anyone can ask them questions, or they'll come out to your house and give you advice. So it's a great resource that people should take advantage of. The Media Historic Society having their Christmas tour on December 13th. They do this every other year, and they're ready to go for this year with 9 houses on the tour. So sign up for that. And I also have a motion I'd like to make for a donation to the Media Historic Society for $4,600 for emergency repairs to the Minshaw House. The Minshaw House is a property that the borough owns. It's over 250 years old and has a couple issues. And some are in an emergency state, need to be repaired before they, damage the property permanently. So I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? $4,600.
Well, it's been looked at by the engineer or by code, at least to make sure that it is all that needs to be done right now to ensure that the emergency is no longer an emergency.
No.
Where are we going with the dollars?
Dollar?
Dollar amount for the work.
There's a person on the board who does this for a living.
Okay.
And there's 5 items listed that, so they're small items, but he's saying if they're not taken care of now, we'll just make them as well.
Okay.
Things in the nature of caulking and brick pointing, that type of thing, that if they're let go, then woodwork will begin to deteriorate and becomes a bigger problem. So stitching time saves 9 type deals. Okay, are there any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of a donation, of Media Borough making a donation amount of $4,600 to the Media Historic Society for emergency repairs to the Minshaw House, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. The Media Business Authority has many events, as most people know. They're also working on a survey that they took of the business owners in the borough, and they have a person named Jeremy Alvarez who's working on compiling that information and analyzing it and feeding it back to the MBA board on what they can do to improve what they do. And what they have listed here is improvements to the public realm, auto and pedestrian circulation and parking, borough project development, and managing the business district are the general subjects of the survey. So we hope to get those results very soon, so I'll report on that when we get those. The last thing I wanted to mention is the Fellowship House. They're having an event on October 22nd. And they're having CBS's 60 Minutes newest member, Bill Whitaker. If you watch that show, you might know him, but he's also a media person. He grew up here in media. And he's going to be the keynote speaker, along with Vi Sakahema, if you know him on TV.
Really?
Yeah.
It's Yuki Washington.
It's Yuki Walk.
Yuki
I thought
Washington.
it was Vi
No. Yuki Washington from CBS.
I'm so sorry.
The Youngster.
Okay.
Buys from NBC.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, I guess I misheard that. Anyway, I believe somewhere on the agenda there's a donation that we'd like to make.
There is, that's under Mr. Davidson's.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to add, that Rob Anato, the president of the Media Fellowship House, wanted to add that they've been working diligently on donations, and they've earned $20,000 to date. So they've done a nice job in raising money for the fellowship. So I just want to put that plug in for them.
Thank you, Lisa. Any questions for Lisa? Lisa, just a quick question for you. Restaurant week?
Sorry?
Restaurant week, is that ongoing?
It's this week and next week.
Not sure. Chance to let
Oh.
the folks of the borough know all about this wonderful bargain.
Yeah, the restaurant week, we did it in March, and it was very successful, and they do it in Philadelphia and I'm sure other places. And it's a prefix menu where you go to the restaurant, so they have, a limited menu for a set price. And it's an opportunity to get out Monday through Sunday, except Saturday, for this week and next week. So get a chance to try a new restaurant.
All right. Another of the many wonderful opportunities we have in this small town. Okay, so we'll then move on to Vice President Robinson, Properties, Public Safety, Public Works, and Civil Service.
Good evening. Before I start my agenda, as I do every month, I'm going to encourage anybody who can hear me or see me this evening to contact our immediate fire company and our EMS unit. Always looking for volunteers, great group of people. Spent 2 nights down there last week with the staff, talking about all kinds of things. They are always working to do what they can do to best service our community. A extremely dedicated group of individuals. They can use firefighters and they can also use administrative help. So anyone who is interested, please take the time, go down, see them. For people that may not have the time, I'd always encourage you, if you're around the firehouse and you see the doors open, stop in. Take a look at the assets that they have for the safety of all of us in the borough. I think you'll be very, very impressed. Another reminder, and it was discussed a little bit earlier with regards to our upcoming holiday parade, which will be November 30th, and there's also going to be a jingle run, which is more of a recreational run than it is our typical 5-mile run. That'll be starting, I believe, at 4 o'clock. But what I'm really trying to stress this evening is we are going to be working with toys, with HOTS, and we're with the help of Mr. Diamond, we are hoping to secure the Junior Marine ROTC to come and participate to collect unwrapped gifts for children of need. We anticipate a lot of people coming to this parade, so I'm just asking everyone to take the time, stop, pick up something, and donate it so you can make somebody's holiday a little bit more joyful and have a little bit more of a smile on their face. So I really, really encourage that. One other reminder before I start my agenda items. Not wearing my pink tie for anything. Please remember this is October. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So anybody that can do anything for that, I would encourage them to do so. Moving on to my agenda items. So I will be quick tonight as well. For those of you who attended last month's council meeting, you are aware that council has been working with the implementation of public safety camera system. The vote was cast to purchase the cameras. An issue was with regards to a policy. We did have a final public hearing at the public safety meeting, which was the Tuesday after council. Did not receive any significant new input, but there has been changes to the original policy. I am not going to read them, all of them, but I'm going to touch base on some of them. Purpose, 2 key ones, to prevent and investigate crime. Purpose, and another one that was added, is to monitor large public gatherings, i.e. parades, rallies, etc. I think it's important that it's also referenced that the cameras will have limitations and will not be directed into building windows or interiors. I think that's an important one. Also that we will be appointing an officer in charge. These cameras will only be used for investigative purposes. The department will be required to have password protection to get in, to look at any of the video feeds. With that, they will also be required to document why they are going in and the reasons for that. The only time that cameras will be used actually for live feeds, again, is in mass gathering events and issues of 911 calls. I'm going to say that they are the key items with regards to the policy. So, and video images shall be retained for a period of no more than 30 days. Thank you, Mr. President. So what we'll get, we will keep them on file. After 30 days, they will no longer be available unless there is such reason for if it was an act of crime or something of that nature. So with that, I will make a motion with regards to passing the policy for the public safety cameras issued and dated October 16th, 2014.
Is there a second on the motion to adopt the public safety camera system policy?
I'll second.
Motion's been made, it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the substance of the motion before we call the vote? Hearing no call for discussion, I will call the question. All those who favor adopting The policy with regard to closed-circuit television cameras to be used on State Street, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay.
No.
The motion passes.
Second is really more of a, somewhat of a house cleaning item. This is to the appointment of our chief of police as the police department open records officer. It's kind of two worlds. We have our public side, or the governmental side, which Mr. Smith, our manager, handles all the public records as the public records officer. But we also felt that it was important that with regards to police matters, that we have someone who is a police professional and also will have greater access to the information. So with that, I make a motion that we appoint our chief of police as the police department open records officer.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no call for discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of appointing the chief of police as the public department open records officer, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Next on the agenda is referencing a rent abatement for Aqua Water Wastewater to allow for relocation of their access road at Lincoln Street Pumping Station. To give a little history, years ago, the Borough Media owned our own water and wastewater treatment facility. Some years back, we sold the treatment plant to Aqua, but we retained ownership of the properties in which made up and were part of that system. One of that is Hoopman Park, which is actually located in Upper Providence Township. With that, Aqua provides rent to the borough, I believe in roughly $60,000 a year for the Hoopman Park area. With the renovation and significant improvements to Hoopman Park, Aqua is going to be required to relocate access to their pumping stations. It's essential that they have the ability to get to that station. Myself and the manager, Jeff Smith, met with Aqua, and the cost of the project, which is not just the road, but it's retaining walls, fencing, etc., would come to a cost of $116,350. After a little bit of negotiations with Aqua, who is a very good community neighbor, we were able to get that cost down, and we are willing, or at least I'm going to bring up for a motion this evening, that we offer a rent abatement over a 3-year period to Aqua. For the first year, we'd have an abatement of $20,000, second year $15,000, third year $10,000. So out of the $116,000 cost, the borough will take care of $45,000 of that. It seems a little bit high, but in reality, a lot of the work in which Aqua will be doing will be work that we would have to do anyway with regards to the renovation of the property. So it's really, I look at this as a win-win for all of us. So I make a motion that we approve the rent abatement as just presented for Aqua wastewater treatment plant with regards to the Lincoln Street pumping station.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those who favor authorizing rent abatement in the amount of approximately $45,000 over the course of 30 years for Aqua wastewater to allow for the relocation of their access road in the Hoopman Park or the Lincoln Street pumping station, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Next is Resolution 2014-11. I could go into all the details, but long and short is, for those residents that know or may not know, we have 2 rental facilities within the municipal complex. We have our parlor, which is a small Victorian room that is available for rent, and we have our large community room, which is also available for rent. If I am not mistaken, we moved in here in 1991, close. 1995. That's when we set our original rates. We have not raised our rental rates since that time period. I don't know if there's anything that anyone in this room can say has not gone up in cost in that time period. So it is the recommendation of our staff person who is in charge of the facilities that we increase the rent by $25. And with that, I'd make a motion to pass the increase for the rental fees for the parlor and community room as referenced in Resolution 2014-11.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
What's the cost now?
It,
Mr.
all over the place. It goes from $100, $190 to $300. It all depends on how long you're renting it. You know, it's the longer you have it, the cheaper it is. So, I mean, I'm able to provide this to you, and it is online, Sarah. So, I mean, I could spend the next 15 minutes, but
Or
in essence, it's just a
2.5
$25.
minutes saying your ranges, you know, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's a very large range between the community room and the parlor. It goes
So if I
literally
need
from
to talk
$190
for an hour,
$190 to the highest one I see on here is 6 hours for $365.
Okay.
Any other questions, Sarah? All right. I will note that there are many organizations, many community organizations that are exempt from these
Yes.
fees. So, and that will not change. All right. So call the question. All those in favor of adopting Resolution 2014-11, which will increase rental fees in the parlor and community center by a modest amount, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Next on my list is a request for a handicap parking spot on Centennial Avenue. The only time this is really brought before council is if in fact the applicant has off-street parking. Upon further review by our code enforcement officer and our manager, the off-street parking that is there is a shared driveway, so the individual that is requesting a handicap spot, it does make it difficult for that individual to use their driveway. There is ample parking in that area, so we don't see any issue. I think it's also important that I at least remind all the residents that it's not a reserved parking spot for that individual. It is just a handicap spot located on Centennial Avenue. So with that, I make a motion that we approve the handicap parking space for the property located on Centennial Avenue as referenced in their application.
Second.
Motion's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those who favor approving the request for handicap parking at 610 Centennial Avenue, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes. And Paul, as you know, there are examples, other examples throughout of this where you have a shared driveway situation.
Right. And we try to work with any applicant. You know, there are times that it's because of the difficulty in parking that we may not be able to do it, but when we can, we really try to assist our residents. Next on the agenda is mass gathering permit application for the Delaware County Democratic Committee Get Out the Vote rally, which will be Saturday, November 1st, 2014. The location would be Veterans Square between Front Street and Jasper Street. Setup time is 4:30, event starts 6, end event 7, final breakdown 8:30. Different elected officials, anticipated attendance, I guess it's 300. We do this on a regular basis. This is, the application came in a little bit late, but we've done it in the past. The other factor is it's not a major road on Veterans Square, and Jasper is not that vital on a Saturday evening. So with that, I make a motion, we approve the application as submitted.
Second.
The motion's been seconded. A quick question for Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, am I correct or am I not correct that there was a change in the time?
Yes, they had originally applied for a morning time slot, and then they, later that afternoon, changed it to the present time that was referenced.
So the 6th to 7th.
Make sure I reference that I didn't see the original one, so I'll make sure it's PM, not AM. We would allow it if it was 4:30 AM, plus I don't think we're going to get 300 people.
That will not be a very successful get out the vote.
So, thank you.
All right, any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the mass gathering permit for the Get Out the Vote rally on Saturday, November 1, in the evening hours 6 to 7 p.m., please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Last on the agenda is authorizing the hiring of fill-in crossing guards. Right now, the chief of police needs some fill-ins as it's referenced. So he has a couple people that have expressed interest. At this point, as chair of public safety, I'd like to also encourage any other residents that may be interested in a fill-in position that may eventually lead into a full-time position as a crossing guard. Please feel free to contact the police department, fill out an application. There's always needs. We have more intersections than we know what to do with, and very often the guards have limited time, so we're always looking for extras. I do not have the names right now in front of me of the individuals. I don't think that's necessarily important because it's really just a fill-in position, but I'm also going to encourage that anybody else that's interested in serving as a crossing guard, please contact the police department. So since it's on the agenda, Mr. President, I guess I'll make a motion that we authorize the chief to hire the fill-ins as the applicants that he currently has.
The motion been made. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
We do have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
So how many felons is he looking for? 3?
There's 3 right now, but we're always looking for others. So that's why I'm encouraging, other people to do it that are interested to please apply to the chief.
Okay.
Is there any effect on his budget?
No, Mr. Smith, not that I'm aware of, because I think that's already in the budget.
It's in the budget, and also the school district covers 50% of the cost of all the crossing guards.
So no change to 2014 or
No.
2015 budget?
No, because it's just to fill in, so the crossing guards, we don't pay them any leave time, so they would just be covering the shift essentially.
That's all I need.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of authorizing hiring of the fill-in crossing guards, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
And that concludes my report.
Are there any questions for Vice President Robinson? We will then turn to Community Development, Personnel, and Media Arts Council. That is my portion of the agenda. I suspect I'm going to clear much of the room because judging from the folks who are here, I think that they're here for items that are on my agenda. The first is an ordinance. It's ordinance number 1112, and its official title is Regulations for the Planting, Growing, and Cultivating of Bamboo. Really what it is taboo on bamboo. Bamboo is a wonderful decorative plant. It can make a wonderful addition to some gardens, but it's also extremely aggressive, highly invasive. It is pernicious. There are many municipalities in this area that have adopted a ban or an ordinance that bans the planting of bamboo, and we think it's time that we do so as well. So the ordinance that we have will ban the planting of any bamboo outdoors from this point forward. It will not require currently planted bamboo to be removed unless it's within 15 feet of a property line or involved with borough sidewalks, in which case it might be required that the property owner remove that bamboo.
Excuse me, Ryan, there are specifications of the types of bamboo.
That is
Not all
true.
bamboo.
That is true. And if you're going to force me to pronounce these things, we're
No,
going
no,
to be
no.
here a long night.
No,
Amy can do that.
no, I mean, and it's just so the public knows it's not all bamboo, but there are many invasive species,
So what Councilwoman Amy Johnson has said is that, and she is correct, the ordinance specifies the types of bamboo. As I understand it, there are some bamboo that are far more troublesome than others. And our ordinance specifies those types of bamboo that will be subject to the prohibition. So such as bambusa, philostachys. I'm not going to go any farther. I'm now tempting fate. But it's there in the ordinance. So anybody going forward, if you're thinking of planting bamboo, please consult the ordinance first. Otherwise, you might be required. Well, you will be required to remove the bamboo. You cannot plant these types of bamboo from this time forward if we adopt the ordinance. So I will move that we adopt ordinance number 1112, which will prohibit the planting of certain types of bamboo from this time forward, and will require maintenance of those certain types of bamboo so that they do not get any closer than 15 feet of a property line or do not become involved in borough sidewalks or streets. I make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Make a motion to approve ordinance 1112, regulations with regarding the planting and growing and cultivating of bamboo. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
All right, item number 2 regards the subdivision of an existing properties located at 122 East Fifth Street. We have the owner of the property here, Mr. Martini.
Yes.
This, for those people who aren't familiar with the address, it is on Fifth Street between North Edgemont Street and North Monroe Street on the south side.
Right, it's 122 East Fifth Street.
122 East Fifth Street. Those folks who have noticed know that the old house that was there has been taken down and is being replaced by another structure. The owner of the property would like to subdivide the land, which he may do, unless we as council can point to a portion of the code that the subdivision violates. And as our code enforcement officer has advised us, as has our solicitor, the subdivision here complies with the dimensional requirements of the code. So I think at this point, Mr. Scott, our motion here is to approve the subdivision?
That's correct.
All right. So I will move for the subdivision application of 122 East Fifth Street, which I should also add was met with approval by the Planning Commission.
I will give the last.
The Planning Commission reviewed it and they recommended that council approve it.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded with regards to the subdivision application pertaining to the property at 122 East Fifth Street. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Whoops, I'm sorry. Anyone wishes to discuss the motion? Got it. I mean, as I discussed with the council president, who's also the chair of the community development, this is an application that is permitted under the current zoning code. I have asked that our community development committee take a look. I do have concerns that there are limited properties in the borough that are large properties, and I've had several neighbors address concerns with regards to the subdivision that is now, people are politely calling it the Ocean City effect, where you have these older homes, larger properties demolished, and then putting as much property or home as you can on the property. There are several areas in the borough that do have older properties or older buildings with larger properties. I'd ask that the CDC, along with Mr. Jeffrey and Mr. Smith, take a serious look at what we may be able to do to preserve and protect some of the larger properties.
That actually is an agenda item for the next community design committee meeting, which will be the last Tuesday of this month. Do I have that right, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
4:30 p.m. 4 o'clock, I apologize. 4 o'clock in the second floor conference room.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Yes. Opposed? Ayes have it.
All right, so the next item is a zoning hearing board application of, it says 104 East State Street, but I don't think that's correct. 104 East State Street is the address of the meeting theater. If I'm getting I'm looking at you, Austin. Is the property 100 or 102?
100.
100 East State Street.
Correct.
Okay, so the property here is 100 East State Street. That is at the southeast corner of the intersection between State Street and Jackson Street. Across the street from Nudie, across Monroe from the Nudie restaurant, and across the State Street from Meade Elementary School. This involves the property that used to be the Benary Jewelers, and most recently was the WSFS Bank, which has moved its business onto Baltimore Avenue, and they have left the corner property empty. The media theater is interested in assuming the remainder of the lease on that property and using it in part as a place where vocal classes, dance classes can be used. In other words, for educational purposes with a bit of a retail component as well. They need a special exception to do this. This is the ROA district, zoning district. And the ROA district does not permit as of right educational uses, but it does permit educational uses as a special exception. And it is the opinion of our code enforcement officer as well as our solicitor that this proposed use is an educational use. So what we're being asked here today is whether or not we wish to send our solicitor to oppose the zoning hearing board hearing, which will take place, I think it's next Thursday. The way this works is that with a special exception, it's presumed permitted unless others in the community with standing come forward and they present evidence as to why this is not a good fit for the neighborhood. So we are here today voting upon, or maybe not voting on anything with regard to sending our solicitor. I'm convinced that this is a good use for that neighborhood. It will bring a certain amount of activity to a corner that right now has less activity than we'd like to see. Certainly, it should provide more activity than a bank would, especially during evening hours. So I think that this is a worthwhile experiment, if you will, to see if this works. So my recommendation, following the recommendation of the Planning Commission, is that we not send our solicitor to the zoning hearing board, and therefore I'm not making a motion. If anyone wishes to make a motion that we send our solicitor there, they may do so now.
You're not making a motion.
That is correct. We only make a motion if we want to send our solicitor there. So in observation of the 5-second rule, there's been no motion made in 5
I'd
seconds.
just like to encourage that, I don't know if we have to do it formally, but as we discussed at workshop, years ago, we had a professional come in working with the borough and our business district with regards to making State Street as walk-friendly. And what they're referencing is it's very important that even if it's a store that it is not open, gives the appearance of a retail, gives the appearance of interest, so that when you're walking down the street, that you're not walking past closed Venetian blinds or posters in the window and things of that concept. That, I would encourage you that even if your retail percentage is small, make that the window displays, make that what people see when they're walking down the street versus, a dance class, open room type of thing. It gives people something to look at, gets people more, personal opinion, gets people more excited with regards to the theater. So I'd encourage you to really give it that retail look, even if it's the windows, and the first few feet in, recognize you need the majority of the square footage for classes and things of that nature. So I don't think we necessarily need to do that formally. I know that the theater is very good community neighbors. I'm sure they'll do whatever they can do to give that appearance of a full retail store. Beats a bank.
We don't wish to legislate aesthetics, but I agree with Vice President Robinson. I should mention that the Planning Commission did place 2 conditions upon their recommendation not to oppose. One of which is that there would be no regular performances, and the other of which was that the applicant comply with applicable building and life safety codes. I assume that there isn't any problem with that from the applicant.
None whatsoever, and that is also our intent.
Fantastic.
And those conditions will be communicated to the zoning hearing board.
Yes, you did authorize it, and the solicitor has sent a letter to the zoning officer, I believe, that will be presented during the proceeding next Thursday night.
Okay, good. All right, not hearing any motion, we will then move on to item number 4 in my agenda. Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 4 is ratification of an offer of employment for a technology coordinator. We have made an offer of employment to Rachel Hetzel. She is extremely well qualified and well suited for this position. Basically, this position is for someone who knows stuff about technology to help explain it to people who don't on the borough so we can maximize the technology that we have. Anybody who has a computer at home and has kids, anyone my generation, you have computers at home, you have kids, you know that I just scrape the surface, I just barely get by. And then you turn to your child and they say, well, you can do this, you can do that, you can do other things, and wow, I had no idea. And Ms. Hetzel is somebody who will be able to do that and maximize leverage, I guess is the term that's often used these days, the technology that we have so that we can get better at it, more efficient. We can do more stuff with what we have. So I move that we ratify the offer of employment for our part-time technology coordinator that was made to Ms. Hetzel, which I believe has been accepted.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of ratifying the offer of employment for the part-time technology coordinator by the name of, I forget her first name?
Ms. Hetzel, Rachel Hetzel.
Rachel Hetzel. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Last item for legislative action is ratification of an offer of employment for a part-time property maintenance inspector. Jim Jeffrey is our code enforcement officer. He also does property maintenance. He does zoning. He wears many hats. And the good news for the borough is that things are picking up. Things are getting busier. We have more need to do those types of inspections. That's because the borough is finally trending away from the past few years where things, generally speaking, the economy looked kind of poorly, but they're getting better now. And we now have need for someone on a part-time basis to do this type of work so that Mr. Jeffrey can do the other type of work that occupies his time. We have made the offer of employment to a borough resident, Tina Mason. Many of you know her. She has sat for many years on planning commission and done an admirable job. She's also served as the town manager for Millboard. So she has a lot of experience. And so we've extended that offer and it's been accepted. And so today I make a motion that we ratify that offer of employment to Ms. Mason.
Is there a second? Motion's made and second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Make a motion, or for those wishing to approve the ratification of the offer of employment for part-time property maintenance inspector, borough resident Tina Mason. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
A couple of announcements. One, congratulations to the Media Arts Council. They had a wonderful opening for their photography exhibit, Icons. It's their 8th annual Icons exhibit. It was this past weekend. If anybody has not yet gone to their new gallery space, which is basically the confluence of State Street and Baltimore Avenue, you should do so. There's a tremendous amount of high-quality photography that is currently hung there. Over the past number of years, the number of submissions as well as the quality of submissions has really increased. The opening was packed. And by packed, I mean it was elbow to elbow. There are more people that are attending these events than ever before, so congratulations to them. Congratulations to the winners, and special thanks to Fran Shields and his wife Donna. They helped to make the event possible. And lastly, again, I urge anyone who wishes to comment on the Borough Draft Comprehensive Plan, please do so. It is available on our website. You may read it at your leisure. If you believe that it is deficient in some areas or it needs to be changed in certain ways, let us know. Send an email to Mr. Smith, and Mr. Smith will make sure that we receive those emails, and we will consider them before we make a decision on the comprehensive plan. I believe it's jasmith@mediaborough.com. Am I correct? It's probably, I know that by heart, but such is our life. And that's the end of my report. Unless anyone has any questions for me, we'll turn to Mr. Davis. Okay.
Thank you. First on my agenda tonight is the payment of bills for September. And as I'll make a motion that we approve the bills for September in the following amounts. From the general fund, $225,291.90. From the recreation fund, $6,039.91. No funds from liquid fuels, and $313,651.89 from the capital fund for a grand total of $544,983.70. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those who favor the borough paying its bills for the month of September from the general, recreation, and capital funds, please say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next on my agenda is, we discussed in workshop and we interviewed in finance, a group called the PFM Group, which is a financial advisor, and the goal of hiring them is to help the borough work through the borrowing of monies for various capital projects. As those who have been paying attention, we had a large investment this year into our parking garage. We have also been discussing investing in our future library in town, and as well we have now a capital improvement plan which specifies about $10 million in projects over the next 5 to 6 years. So the first step in funding these projects is to get someone to help us who does this every day and understands how to negotiate the best rates and guide us through that process. So I will make a motion that we approve or authorize the hiring of the PFM Group as a financial advisor for the borough borrowing.
Second.
Motion is made, has been seconded. Any questions on the motion? I have a quick question. Terms of the hiring?
Essentially, there are hourly rates which we will not be using, but effectively the cost will be $25,000, which will be taken only upon the completion of a transaction.
Okay.
So if we borrow, $1 million, $2 million, $10 million, they will take their commission out. That piece will come out of that borrowing.
All right, fine. So it's on an hourly basis.
And there's a document that's been sent to all council which outlines the other terms.
So no, it's not on an hourly basis.
The hourly basis for anything outside of borrowing. So if we say, hey, we're doing something completely unrelated to borrowing, we want to use your advice, we'd have to choose to pay an hourly
Right,
rate.
but for the transaction, it's $25,000
Correct.
if it's completely.
Only upon completion, correct. So if we do no borrowing this year, it costs us nothing.
And it's not just for one borrowing time or for each borrow. Suppose you did.
My estimation is per borrowing, and my assessment is we would do a single borrowing this year.
Okay.
And what I'm going to ask actually next is that finance will come up with a number that will help cover all of our anticipated needs for the next 3 or 4 years.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of authorizing the hiring of the PFM Group as a financial advisor for the borough with regard to potential borrowing, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, please say nay.
Abstain. I'm an employee of PFM. I'm not in the financial advisory group. I'm in the asset management group, but I am an employee of PFM.
All right, so Mr. Robinson will be filling out a form shortly. Okay, so, and I stress to those folks who are watching that we're not spending any money yet. This is just putting us in a position that if we decide to take that step, we are in that position to do so.
All right, well, thank you. So related to that last motion is PFM Group has recommended to council that the first step in a borrowing would be to advertise an ordinance which allows the finance committee to essentially sit down and discuss and come up with a total figure in terms of what we need to borrow. So I'd like to make a motion that would authorize the drafting and advertising of an ordinance for the incurrence of debt and authorize step 1 borrowing for miscellaneous capital projects. And let me stress that this is not a commitment, but essentially we would not, it also doesn't commit the board to borrowing anything. It also doesn't commit us to any dollar amounts of borrowing. It just allows us to discuss it and start the drafting of an ordinance.
Second.
A motion is made, it's been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those who favor authorizing the drafting and advertisement of an ordinance for the incurrence of debt and to authorize a step one borrowing for miscellaneous capital projects, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Media Fellowship House. I believe last month we authorized the donation of a table for the amount of $1,150. The Media Fellowship House approached the Finance Committee last month as well and requested us to be a premier sponsor of their upcoming event, which I believe is
October 22nd.
Oh, it's the 22nd, thank you. In the amount of $10,000. And we had heard that they were also asking the county, and so what we had suggested was that we would match up to $10,000 if the county would match as well. Unfortunately, they approached the county, and the county unfortunately was unable to donate any funds. But I believe the sense of council and workshop was that we still wanted to support the Media Fellowship House and their upcoming event. And so I'd like to make a motion that we increase our donation from $1,150 for a total of $8,850 for a total of $10,000 to the Media Fellowship House.
Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I think everyone should know the background of the Media Fellowship House. Paul, you can explain better than I can about the what are doing.
Sarah can.
Or Sarah can.
Well,
Yes, do we need to- Oh, okay.
70 years ago, what happened?
Yes, a young woman and her sister and a child were off to have lunch in media. And after several minutes of being there, the restaurant had told them that nobody would serve them. And so they left. And some other people who overheard, Quakers, decided to take them to another restaurant. And from that, the Media Fellowship House was formed, which was involved with better relations between groups, especially racial groups, and that's what they've been doing for years. Bill Whitaker, which is a CBS 60-minute person now, his mother is the woman, it was the black woman that was involved. And Gail Whitaker, who yes. And so the Whitakers were very, very, had been very, very much involved with media and the progress we've made over the years. What else do you want to say?
The Fellowship House, as Sarah referenced, fought discrimination in our little town in a time that it was prevalent. It grew to work with fair housing to make sure that people that required proper housing got it. They've expanded, several different programs over the course of the 70 years. I think one of the things which also shows, the commitment and the desire of these individuals is that they were kind of going from building to building, trying to find places to have their meetings and trying to get their organization up and running. And a small group took the initiative, hard work, dedication, and fundraising, and actually purchased the property on 302
South Jackson.
302 South Jackson Street, 1 block south of Baltimore Pike. They've been there for probably 60 years now. It is also the home of the Media Senior Center, along with, for years they had a small little dance group. It's a small house, but provides a tremendous amount to the community. So I would encourage all the residents of the borough, take the time, do a little homework, go online, read up about the Media Fellowship House, go up and read about the story behind it. Some of the members of the board have been unbelievable county residents as well as borough residents. So it is truly a gem in this town, and I'm proud in this case that the borough stepped up to the plate and is supporting Media Fellowship House.
Okay.
Well, we'll need to take a vote first. Is there any other discussion? Not hearing any call for further discussion. All those who favor authorizing an additional donation to the Media Fellowship House to the amount of $10,000, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say nay. The motion passes.
Thank you. The mayor always talks about 911. Paul Robinson always talks about volunteering at the firehouse, and it's my job every month to talk about public stuff. There's an app for your phone or Android device which allows you to walk around town, take pictures of the cracks in the sidewalk, and notify the media borough officials about it. So if you haven't downloaded it, it's free. Again, in the iPhone App Store, or sorry, the Apple App Store, or Android, the equivalent Android store. So please check that out and use it, and let us know any problems you see in town, cracks in sidewalks, trees, limbs, dangerous conditions, what have you.
And Ken, another area where they could use that, which our police do it on a regular basis, but I always would encourage our residents, is streetlights. Especially this time of year when the weather starts to change. If you see that a street light is out, take a picture of the black sky and send it in on your public stuff and let us know what intersection. If you're able to obtain the pole number, that would be tremendous. If not, give us the intersection, give us a couple of landmarks, and within a few days, we will have the light in the sky.
Well, the good news is that the app actually uses GPS to actually locate your position if you
Cool.
allow it. So
That's
you don't
even
even
better.
need to. You don't even need to give us the address. We can find it.
But suppose you have a dumb phone instead of a smartphone.
You have a dumb phone, and there's a phone number you can call.
That's what I have.
And I assure the folks out there that that there are people who use that and who will notify the borough of potential problems, and they do get acted upon.
So, continuing on with just reporting of issues, there is a vacancy on the Environmental Advisory Council, and I would love to see any media resident who's interested in environmental issues, solar energy, renewable resources, any of the above, to make an application to the Environmental Advisory Council. You can submit your resume and letter of interest to Jeff Smith via the borough website, or obviously you can call or just walk into the office and drop it off. In addition to that, there's also 2 vacancies on the library board. We have 1 vacancy in media, so those of you who are paying attention would know that we are doing a huge renovation project for the library, and now would be a great time to get involved. The board has become extremely strong in the last couple of years, and so there is a vacancy in media as well as one in Upper Providence for anyone in Upper Providence watching us at this moment. Other upcoming news, October 27th at 5 p.m. is our annual pension meeting, where we have the folks from Harrisburg come down and talk about how our pension is doing. Last year was an exceptional year. I think we broke 10% increases, and we're hoping for the same this year. As well, that same night at 6 p.m. is a budget meeting. We also had budget meetings this week. We met with all of the borough departments, as well as a handful of nonprofits who are interested in getting funding next year, and we will be discussing all of their requests. Again, October 27th at 6 p.m., and it's open to the public. We will welcome you to attend and give us your comments. I'd like to make one other note about the technology coordinator for technology. Obviously, we have a technology plan, and hiring this technology coordinator tonight, we will be meeting shortly with technology to discuss how we will have her help us implement our technology long-term plan. Final piece of news is the library book sale is this weekend. It is, I believe, Friday, Saturday, and
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
oops, thank you. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. every day. It takes place right outside of this complex in the Stone Cottage, and it's always a packed event. It's a huge fundraiser for the library, and obviously, if you come out this year, anyone who comes out, it just helps to support the library's operating budget and potentially their capital budget as well.
I think Monday's $5 fill the bag.
There you go. Monday, $5 fill the bags. So bring your bags and get all the books you ever need. That concludes my report. Any questions?
Any questions for Councilman Davidson? Hearing none, we'll move on. Councilwoman Amy Johnson, Farmers Market Fair Trade, Shakespeare.
Okay, just a quick report tonight. Just a reminder that the Media Farmers Market is every Thursday from 3 to 7. And for those of you who have not visited the market yet, you still have a month left. The market will be open until right before Thanksgiving. And speaking of Thanksgiving, there is a turkey raffle going on right now. I'm the vendor, I'm drawing a blank on the vendor, but it's the vendor that sells the delicious potato chips, so you won't be able to miss where to get that raffle. Another exciting news, at least for me, is the pickle guy is back at the market. So stop by and try the delicious pickles. New vendor this year. Fair Trade, they're having an event. They'd like to announce November 6th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the library. It's sponsored by Media Fair Trade, Media Elementary, PDG, the Media Friends School, Media Library, and the Walden School. It's called Fair Trade 101, How is Fair Trade different and why does it matter? The speaker is Bill Weidman. He is a PA resident and founder of Singing Dog Vanilla, which is a fair trade product. He'll be speaking about his trip to Indonesia, where he trades directly with vanilla farmers. So he'll have photos and educate about vanilla and why trading fairly makes sense for his business. And it is a kid-friendly event, so bring your family, and there will be refreshments served.
Now, what's the time again?
7 to 8 on November 6th at the Media Library. Nothing to report on Shade Tree this month, so that concludes my report. I think I was the shortest one. Well, Lady Sarah.
You'll get your prize later. Any questions for Amy? Hearing none, we'll then turn to Councilwoman Dixon, Public Relations, Historical Archives.
Okay, so the Historical Archives skipped their first meeting in October to meet with the Budget Committee, and we did the other day. And I've learned a few things, because this whole transition is taking up a lot of energy and time. What our budget request could be divided into ongoing operating, interim activities, and capital requests. So now we had a little meeting afterwards in the hallway, standing there, because of all these little things that they've learned just in the budget meeting. So there's still a lot going on about how we will transition once the the library is closed, which is coming up, what, in March, January? Yeah, coming up soon. And so we're still working, they're still working, and as far as publicity, there's lots going on in media. That's it.
All right. We like reports that get to the point. Any questions for Councilwoman Dixon? Hearing none, we'll then move to our bookend public comment and privilege of the floor. Is there anyone here who wishes to address council at this time? If so, please come to the microphone, identify yourself by name and by where you live.
Letitia Jemmons, 216 North Monroe Street. I have two questions. Number one, the Hootman Park thing, does that mean Hootman Park is still closed, and how long will it be closed, or when do you anticipate reopening?
Yes, and now I'm going to turn to Mr. Johnson as to the dates.
The park is still closed, the contractor is working. The estimated completion date is somewhere in or about Thanksgiving. That's the latest I have at this time.
And as a quick follow-up, this renovation will not substantially decrease the amount of planted space, will it? It won't like pave. Because you said something about handicap accessibility. I want to make sure it's not like decreasing the amount of plants and plantings and whatnot to the point that would affect our stormwater.
Now, there's actually stormwater improvements that were designed, and some of those improvements have been installed. There's a few more that still need to be installed as the project continues up and around the platform area and the viewing area.
It will remain a passive park. There will be a walking trail, so there's not going to be a substantial area that we'll be adding with a major earth disturbance. As I said, it will remain a passive park. The biggest improvement will be two things. One, there will be a new pedestrian footbridge that will allow you better access into the park. And number two, there will be a walking trail that you can walk around while in the park.
The plans also call for plantings, which the contractor has planted some of the plantings which have been on the approved plans.
And none of them are exotic invasives.
To my knowledge,
We're not
no.
planting bamboo.
No, to my knowledge, no. The plants have been selected to, not they're exotic, but they're for the area. Native, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, I think you were very careful in how you phrased it when you said Thanksgiving. Do you think that that's aggressive, or do you think that's realistic?
The issue is he'll have most of it done. The long lead item is the bridge, which we are in the process. We received that, I think, Monday or Tuesday. We reviewed it with comments. We forwarded it over to the borough, to Jim Jeffrey. We need to discuss some items with Jim. And at that point, we can then turn it back over to the contractor. I want to say it's an 8-week delivery, 10-week delivery.
Of the bridge.
Of the bridge. So primarily, most of everything will be completed except for the bridge that will span over the little stream there.
So by Thanksgiving, people can go down there, look across the stream at the wonderful thing that they might be able to use in a couple of months.
Correct.
Okay.
That's why I was careful. It's just the fact it's not back on the contractor. It's just the fabrication of these are not simplistic.
And the only other item I had a question on is the mass gathering permit. I assume that's in anticipation of the November 4th being election day?
It is.
And is anyone on council, is anyone going to remind people that everyone can vote in this election, including independents and third parties? You don't have to be Republican or Democrat like the primary in Maine?
I think he just did that.
You just stole his thunder.
Okay.
Anyone who's registered may come out to vote. You do not need to be of a particular persuasion.
Bob Downer, 134 East 3rd Street. I just had one thing, but before I get there, I have to say, I zoned out for about 5 minutes when President Hall kept talking about the nudie place across from the I'm okay now, but anyway.
You zoned out during the zoning.
Yeah, I really did. I was headed down there. But anyway, I just wanted to introduce Robert. Robert here is a senior at Widener University, and is, I'm sorry? I'm sorry, I think you said senior. What begins with an S? Anyway, he's here to observe government in action, so thanks for not embarrassing us.
Is that two words or one? Government in action or in action?
What part was that?
One word or 2 words? In
What?
action.
In action. What does that mean?
The government that you saw in action.
It was really funny when I got it the first time. I'm sorry.
You're welcome to attend any time.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to address council at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
Well, before we do that, just a quick reminder to folks, our leaf schedule is now up, so take a look on the website. It's the leaf breaking time, and that'll tell you when it is that the leaves are going to get picked up. And secondly, we all wish you a safe and happy Halloween.
You haven't gone announcing an executive session?
We are going into executive session. And now do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion moved.
We are adjourned. Good night, folks.